No ID, no signal, no origin. The Empire can't track this object. Part 1. The alarm on Commander's station made a soft sound. It was not the loud warning that came with enemy attacks or system failures. It was a gentle ping, the kind that said something was wrong but not dangerous. Looked at his screen with his 4 eyes and felt confusion spread through his mind. "Report," he said to the officer beside him. "Sir, we have detected an object entering Sector 7. It is moving at standard speed toward the inner systems." Nodded. Hundreds of ships entered space every day. The Empire controlled 40 star systems and countless trade routes. Traffic was normal, but the alarm had sounded for a reason. "Show me the identification," ordered. The officer's fingers moved across the controls. Then they stopped. The young looked at his screen, then back at the screen. "Sir, there is no identification." "Then pull the signal registration." "There is no signal, Commander." Stood from his chair. His tall, thin body moved to the main viewing screen. They were a proud species. They had built an empire that stretched across the stars. Every ship that flew in their space carried a beacon. Every vessel sent signals that told the Empire who they were, where they came from, and where they were going. This was the law. This was how order was maintained. "Show me the origin trace," said. "I cannot, sir. The object has no origin marker. Our systems cannot determine where it came from." Felt something cold move through his body. In his 30 years of service, he had never seen this. Every ship had an ID. Every ship had a signal. Every ship had an origin. These were facts as certain as the stars themselves. "Put the object on visual." The screen changed. Against the black of space saw a small ship. It was dark gray, almost invisible against the void. It moved smoothly, calmly, as if it had every right to be there. The ship was simple in design, with no markings, no lights, and no visible weapons. "What species built this vessel?" asked. "Unknown, sir. The design does not match any in our records." Made a decision. "Send interceptors, 4 ships. I want that vessel stopped and searched." The order went out. 4 fast attack craft launched from the station and moved to block the unknown ship. Watched on the screen as his interceptors took position around the dark vessel. They sent commands for it to stop. They demanded identification. They threatened destruction. The ship did not respond. It did not speed up or slow down. It did not change course. It simply continued forward, passing between the interceptors as if they were not there. "Sir, the vessel is not responding to any communication." "Fire a warning shot." Bright energy flashed across space. The shot passed in front of the unknown ship. Still, it did not react. It kept moving at the same speed on the same path. Inside the dark vessel, watched the interceptors through her viewing screen. She was a human woman with short black hair and calm eyes. She had seen this before, many times. The Empire always reacted the same way. "They fired a warning shot," said Ho from behind her. He was checking the ship systems, making sure everything was running dark. "Should we respond?" "No," said. "We stay quiet, we stay invisible." Ho nodded. He understood. Their ship, the Whisper, was special. It produced no signals. It carried no beacon. Its engines left no trace that sensors could detect. To the Empire's technology, the Whisper barely existed. They could see it with their eyes, but their machines could tell them nothing about it. "How long until we pass through this sector?" asked. 6 hours at current speed." "Then we wait 6 hours." Back on the station, Commander was losing his patience. His interceptors surrounded the unknown ship, but they could not stop it without destroying it, and was not ready to destroy something he did not understand. "Full scan," he ordered. "Every method we have." The station's powerful sensors focused on the small vessel. They searched for heat signatures, energy readings, communication frequencies, and material composition. The results came back one by one. Nothing, 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 nothing. "This is impossible," the scanning officer said. "The ship is there, we can see it, but our systems say it does not exist." Felt fear for the first time. The Empire was built on information. They knew everything about everything in their space. Their surveillance network was perfect. No ship moved without them knowing. No message was sent without them hearing. No secret existed that they could not find. But this ship was a secret they could not touch. "Contact High Command," ordered. "Tell them we have a situation." "What should I tell them, sir?" Looked at the dark ship on his screen. It continued its journey, unconcerned with the military vessels around it. It moved like a ghost, like something from a bad dream. "Tell them we have detected an object with no ID, no signal, and no origin. Tell them we cannot track it. Tell them." Paused. The words felt wrong in his mouth. "Tell them we do not know what it is." The message was sent. Within hours, it reached the highest levels of the Empire. Admirals and generals looked at the report with the same confusion had felt. A ship that could not be tracked, in their space, moving toward the inner systems. One detail in the report caught special attention. When visual analysis was done on the ship's design, one result came back with high probability. The vessel's construction style matched records from a minor species, one that the Empire had conquered long ago. A species known for being weak, primitive, and unimportant. The ship was human. Admiral received the report in his quarters aboard the Imperial flagship. He read it twice, then a third time. Humans had no advanced technology. Humans were laborers and servants throughout the Empire. They worked in mines and factories. They cleaned and built and served. They were not capable of building a ship that could defeat sensors. And yet the evidence was clear. Stood and walked to his window. Outside, the stars burned cold and distant. Somewhere out there, a small human ship was flying through his empire like it owned the space. No ID, no signal, no origin, nothing for his forces to grab onto. For the first time in many years, Admiral felt uncertain. He had fought wars against powerful enemies. He had crushed rebellions and conquered worlds. But he had always known his enemy. He had always been able to see them, track them, and find them. How do you fight something you cannot find? The question had no answer. And deep in space, the whisper continued its journey toward the Imperial core. No ID, no signal, no origin. The Empire can't track this object. Part 2. Remembered the day she learned about Ghost Protocol. She was 16 years old, living in a small human settlement on a mining world. That had taken her parents for labor duty 3 years before. She never saw them again. An old man named Ho had found her stealing food from a storage building. Instead of reporting her, he took her to a hidden room beneath the settlement. There, she saw something that changed her life. A ship. Small, dark, and covered in strange materials. "The watch everything," Ho had told her. "They track every ship, every message, every person. They believe they see all, but they are wrong. They can only see what their machines can detect, and we have learned to be undetectable." That was 15 years ago. Now commanded her own ghost ship, and she had trained dozens of others to do the same. "Checkpoint ahead," one announced from the navigation station. She was a quiet woman with steady hands and sharp eyes. "The gateway, 30,000 ships waiting for inspection." Looked at the view screen. The gateway was massive, a ring of metal and weapons that surrounded the only safe passage through this region of space. Every ship had to stop, identify itself, and submit to scanning before passing through. Imperial soldiers checked cargo, registrations, and searched for anything illegal. 30,000 ships waited in lines that stretched for millions of kilometers. Some would wait for days before reaching the gate. "Take us through," said. One nodded and adjusted their course. The whisper moved toward the gateway, passing the long lines of waiting ships. "They are hailing us," said from communications. She was the youngest crew member, barely 22, but her skills with signals and codes were remarkable. Standard Imperial Challenge. They want our identification and purpose. Ignore it, said. The whisper continued forward. On the Imperial side, automated systems tried to lock onto the approaching vessel. They searched for the identification beacon that all ships were required to carry. They found nothing. They searched for signal emissions. Nothing. They tried to access the ship's navigation computer. Nothing. The automated systems had a simple rule. If a ship could not be identified, it did not exist. And things that did not exist could not be stopped. The whisper passed through the gateway without slowing down. 30,000 ships watched it go, their captains confused and amazed. The Imperial soldiers at the checkpoint did not even see it pass. Their screens showed nothing. "We are through," one reported. Ho laughed softly from his engineering station. "I will never get tired of that." Allowed herself a small smile, but she knew the danger was not over. The ship that had been following them for 2 days was still there. Admiral had taken personal command of the pursuit. His flagship, the Dominant Truth, was the largest warship in the Imperial fleet. It carried enough firepower to destroy a planet. Yet it followed the small human vessel at a careful distance, unable to do anything but watch. Stood on his command deck, surrounded by officers and technology. Every screen showed data about the unknown ship, and every screen showed the same thing, nothing useful. "How did it pass through the gateway?" demanded. "Sir, the automated systems did not detect it," his tactical officer explained. "Without detection, there was no challenge, no stop order, no inspection." "I can see that. I want to know how." No one had an answer. Turned to his intelligence officer. "Tell me about humans, everything." The officer activated a data display. Humans are a species from a small planet called Earth. They were discovered by the Empire approximately 200 years ago. Their technology at that time was primitive. They had just begun space travel. The Empire incorporated them as a labor-class species. They now exist on most imperial worlds, working in various industries. Military capability. None, sir. Humans have no warships, no armies, no weapons beyond simple tools. They are considered a passive species. They do not resist. Looked at the dark shape of the human vessel on his screen. Then explained that ship. The intelligence officer had no explanation. On the whisper was monitoring Imperial communications. She wore a small device in her ear that let her hear what the Empire was saying. Most of it was routine traffic, but some of it was about them. "Admiral is frustrated," she reported too. "He has ordered a full review of all human activity in the Empire. They are looking for signs of other ghost ships." "Let them look," said. "They will not find anything." He has also contacted the Imperial Council. They are discussing the situation at the highest level. This was expected. Had known that their mission would attract attention. That was partly the point. "Anything else?" she asked. Listened for a moment longer. "Yes, he is asking how many humans there are in the Empire." And no one knows the exact number. Estimates range from 2 billion to 5 billion across all Imperial worlds. Nodded. That was one of humanity's greatest strengths. They were everywhere. They worked on every planet, in every system, in every part of the Empire. They were so common that no one really paid attention to them. They were furniture, background, invisible in a different way. "If one ship can do this," Ho said, "they will start wondering how many more there might be." "Yes," agreed, "they will." Admiral was already having that thought. He stood at his window, watching the small human ship move through his space like it owned it. One ship, one small, dark vessel that his entire fleet could not stop. If humans could build one such ship, they could build more. And if they could build more, they might already have built more. They might be flying through Imperial space right now, unseen and untracked. The thought made skin grow cold. The Empire's power came from knowledge. They knew where every ship was. They knew what every citizen was doing. They knew everything. But what if they did not? What if things existed in their space that they could not see? Made a decision. He opened a communication channel to Imperial Command. Begin scanning all known human populations, he ordered. Search their settlements, their work areas, their living spaces. Look for hidden technology, secret meetings, anything unusual. I want to know everything about what the humans have been doing. The order went out across the Empire. Within hours, Imperial soldiers were entering human areas on 100 worlds. They searched homes and workshops. They questioned workers and families. They looked for signs of the technology that had created the ghost ship. They found nothing. The humans were helpful and cooperative. They answered every question. They opened every door. They showed the soldiers everything. And in all of it, there was no sign of advanced technology, no evidence of secret ships, no hint of rebellion. Because everything important had already been hidden. The ghost network had been warned. And by the time the soldiers arrived, there was nothing to find. On the Whisper reported the Empire's search efforts. The crew listened in silence. They knew that friends and family were being questioned. They knew that innocent people were being disturbed. But they also knew that this was expected. This was part of the plan. They are afraid now, said quietly. They are beginning to understand. Understand what? Ho asked. Looked at the stars through the view screen. Somewhere out there in the darkness between worlds, more ghost ships were flying. More humans were working in silence. More preparations were being made. That they never really controlled us, she said. They only thought they did. The Whisper continued on its course, moving deeper into Imperial space. Behind it, the dominant truth followed, helpless and angry. And across the Empire, a new fear was spreading. A fear of things unseen. A fear of humans. For the first time in 200 years, the Empire was not certain of its power. And that uncertainty was just the beginning. No ID, no signal, no origin. The Empire can't track this object. Part 3. The Whisper dropped out of faster-than-light travel in empty space. There were no stars nearby, no planets, no stations. This was the deep void between systems, a place where no one had reason to go. But the Whisper was not alone. As watched through the view screen, shapes began to appear around them. First one, then 3, then 10, then more. Ships materialized out of the darkness like shadows coming to life. They were all different sizes and designs, but they all shared the same quality. They were dark, quiet, and invisible to Imperial sensors. The fleet, Ho said softly. I never get tired of seeing this. Counted the ships as they appeared. 23, 24, 25. The number kept growing. By the time it stopped, there were 47 ghost ships floating in formation around them. All ships reporting in, announced. The Council is ready for the meeting. Nodded and opened a communication channel. Her face appeared on screens across all 47 vessels. Hundreds of human faces looked back at her. Thank you all for coming, she began. I know the risks of gathering like this, but we have important news to share. One of the other captains spoke up. His name was Dong, and he commanded the oldest ship in the fleet. His face was covered in scars from years of dangerous work. We have all heard about your journey through the gateway. The Empire is in chaos. That was the plan, said. We needed them to know we exist. Now they are afraid. Afraid enough to start searching human settlements everywhere, another captain said. Her name was Mi-Ra, and she was responsible for rescue operations in the outer systems. My people had to hide 3 families yesterday. Imperial soldiers came to their homes with scanners and questions. I know, said. This was expected. The searches will not find anything because we have been preparing for this moment for 30 years. A younger voice spoke up. 30 years. The Ghost Fleet is 30 years old. The voice belonged to Bin. She was not a captain or a crew member. She was a passenger, a young woman who had been rescued from a mining colony just 2 months ago. She had joined the meeting to learn more about the people who had saved her. Dong answered her question. The first ghost ship was built before you were born, child. An old engineer named Ho figured out how to block Imperial sensors. He spent 10 years perfecting the technology. Then he spent another 10 years training others. When he died, he left behind 5 ships and 50 trained captains. Now we have 47 ships, Mira added, and we train new crews every year. Bin looked around at the faces on the screen. These were humans like her, workers, servants, the lowest class in the Empire, and they had built something that the most powerful civilization in the galaxy could not stop. "What do the ships do?" she asked. Smiled gently. "We do many things. We rescue humans from dangerous situations. We deliver supplies to settlements that the Empire has forgotten. We carry messages between worlds without the Empire reading them. We move people who need to disappear." "We are the freedom the Empire does not know about," Dong said. "We cannot fight their warships. We cannot defeat their armies, but we can exist outside their control, and sometimes that is enough." Far away, in the gleaming halls of the Imperial Council, Hai was receiving a report that made her very angry. Was old even by standards. She had ruled the Empire for 200 years and she had never faced a problem she could not solve. Rebellions were crushed, enemies were destroyed, secrets were found. Her empire was perfect because she made it perfect. But now her advisors were telling her about ships that could not be tracked, ships built by humans, the same humans who cleaned her palace and served her food. "How is this possible?" she demanded. "Humans have no technology, they have no resources, they have nothing." "That is what we believed, Hai," her chief advisor said carefully. "It appears we were wrong." His eyes burned with cold anger. "Find them. Find every one of these ships. Find the humans who built them." "We are trying, Hai. Admiral has been searching for days, but the ships cannot be detected by our sensors. We can only see them when they allow themselves to be seen." "Then change the sensors." "Our best scientists are working on it, but they say the human technology is unlike anything they have seen. It does not block our sensors or trick them. It simply does not produce anything for sensors to detect. The ships are silent, completely silent." Stood from her throne and walked to the great window that overlooked the imperial city. Millions of lived below, going about their lives, trusting their government to keep them safe. Among them, she knew, were thousands of humans, servants, workers, invisible. She had never thought about the humans much. They were useful but unimportant. They did the work that did not want to do. They were part of the empire like furniture was part of a room. Now she wondered how many of them were secretly laughing at her. "If we cannot find the ships," she said slowly, "then we must control the humans themselves. Every human in the empire will be registered and tracked. They will carry identification implants that cannot be removed. They will report their location at all times. If they build more ships, we will know. If they try to disappear, we will find them." Her advisor nodded. "It will be done, Hai." The order went out across the empire. Mandatory registration for all humans, tracking implants for every man, woman, and child, complete surveillance of the human population. In the deep void, intercepted the order and reported it to the gathered fleet. Silence filled the communication channels as captains and crews understood what was coming. "They want to cage us," Mira said bitterly. "Put trackers in our bodies like we are animals." "They are scared," replied. "Scared beings do extreme things." "What do we do?" Bin asked. She thought of her younger brother still living on the mining colony. Would soldiers come for him? Would they put a tracker inside him? Dong spoke with the confidence of long experience. "We do what we have always done. We disappear. Not our ships this time, but our people. The Ghost Network is more than just ships. It is safe houses, hidden paths, secret identities. We have been moving humans out of dangerous places for 30 years. Now we move more. Can we save everyone? Ben asked. No, admitted honestly. We cannot save everyone, but we can save many. And those we cannot save, we can prepare. We can teach them to resist. We can show them that even under surveillance, freedom is possible. How? Looked at the young woman on her screen. Ben was afraid, but she was also angry. That anger was useful. The Empire thinks that if they watch everything, they will control everything. But watching is not the same as understanding. They can put trackers in our bodies, but they cannot track our thoughts. They can watch our movements, but they cannot watch our plans. They can control our actions, but they cannot control our hope. She paused and looked at all the faces watching her. Humans from 100 worlds, carrying the weight of impossible odds. The Empire is about to learn that humans cannot be caged. Not really. Not completely. Our bodies might be trapped, but our spirits are free. And as long as our spirits are free, we will find ways to fight back. The meeting ended shortly after. The fleet dispersed, each ship returning to its own mission. Some went to rescue humans from planets where the registration would begin soon. Others went to prepare safe houses and escape routes. A few went to spread the word among human communities, telling them that help was coming. The whisper continued toward the Imperial core. Its mission had not changed, would complete what she had started. As the ship flew through the darkness, Ben sat in the small passenger area and thought about what she had learned. 2 months ago, she had been a slave in a mining pit, with no hope and no future. Now she was part of something larger than herself, something that scared the most powerful empire in the galaxy. She did not know what the future would bring, but for the first time in her life, she believed it might be better than the past. No ID, no signal, no origin. The Empire can't track this object. Part 4. The human district of Prime was quiet when the soldiers arrived. It was early morning and most people were preparing for their work shifts. The district was like all human areas in the Empire. Small homes packed closely together. Narrow streets. Simple buildings made of cheap materials. Nothing special. Nothing important. But today, the soldiers came with medical equipment and registration officers. Today, the implanting would begin. Min watched them from his window. He was an old man with white hair and kind eyes. He had lived on Prime for 60 years. He had seen generations of humans born, grow up, work, and die in this district. Now he was watching the Empire try to put trackers inside their bodies. His communication device buzzed softly. A single word appeared on the screen: ready. Min nodded to himself and left his home. The soldiers had set up a processing station in the district center. Long lines of humans were forming, waiting their turn to receive the tracking implants. Imperial officers called out names and checked identification papers. Everything was organized and efficient. This was how the Empire did things. Lieutenant supervised the operation. He was a young officer who had been assigned to human management only recently. He did not particularly care about humans one way or another. They were just part of his job. Next group, he called out. Families with children under 12, line up at Station 3. The humans moved slowly, their faces showing fear and anger that they tried to hide. Some mothers held their children close. Some fathers clenched their fists but said nothing. Resistance was pointless. The Empire had weapons and power. Humans had nothing. Or so believed. An hour into the operation, noticed something strange. The lines were not getting shorter. Despite processing dozens of humans, the crowd seemed the same size as before. He counted the people waiting and compared it to his registration lists. The numbers did not match. Officer, he called to his assistant, how many humans have we processed so far? 73, sir. And how many are on our list for this district? 2,412. Looked at the crowd again. There were perhaps 300 people in the square. Where were the rest? He activated his communication device. All units report. How many humans are in the residential areas? The reports came back one by one. Houses were empty. Entire blocks had no one home. Streets that should have been full of people going to work were silent. "This is impossible," muttered. "Where did they go?" Across the district, the answer was simple. The humans had disappeared, not through magic or advanced technology. They had simply left, through tunnels that had been dug over decades, through passages in buildings that looked solid but had hidden doors, through networks of allies who could move people quickly and quietly. Min had coordinated everything. He walked through the streets now, checking that the evacuation was complete. Small teams of trusted humans guided their neighbors to safety. Children were carried through narrow passages. Elderly people were helped onto hidden transport vehicles. By the time the soldiers searched the homes, there was no one to find. Was one of the last to leave. She was a young woman of 25, strong and quick. Her job was to make sure everyone in her building got out safely. She had just helped an old couple through a concealed door when she heard soldiers entering the building. "Search every room," a voice commanded. "Find them." Moved silently through the shadows. The passage she needed was just around the corner, but a soldier stepped into the hallway, blocking her path. He saw her immediately. "Stop," he ordered. "Come with me for processing." Did not stop. She ran. The soldier chased her, calling for backup. She turned corners, jumped over obstacles, and used every shortcut she knew. But the soldier was faster and more soldiers were coming. She reached a dead end, a wall of metal with no doors and no windows. Behind her, 3 soldiers approached with weapons ready. "There is nowhere to go, human," the lead soldier said. "Come quietly." Smiled. "Are you sure about that?" The wall behind her opened. 2 figures in dark clothing reached out and pulled her through. The wall closed again before the soldiers could react. On the other side was a narrow tunnel leading down into darkness. Her rescuers wore no uniforms, no identification. They were ghosts. "Move quickly," one of them said. "We have a vehicle waiting." They ran through the tunnel. After several minutes, they emerged in an underground chamber where a small transport craft waited, climbed aboard and found herself surrounded by other evacuees. Children, families, workers, all saved from registration. The transport lifted off and flew through underground passages that the Empire did not know existed. An hour later was aboard the Whisper, looking out at the stars. "Thank you," she said to, "you saved us." "We saved some of you," corrected gently. "Not everyone could be reached in time, but we will keep trying." Back on Prime, Lieutenant was trying to explain the disaster to his superiors. Out of 2,400 humans scheduled for registration, fewer than 300 had been processed. The rest had simply vanished. "How?" his commander demanded. "How did this happen?" "I do not know, sir. One moment they were there. The next moment they were gone. We searched everywhere. There is no trace of them." The commander's face was hard with anger. "Find them. Use every resource. Tear that district apart if you have to. Return to the human district with more soldiers and heavier equipment." They searched every building. They scanned every street. They broke walls and dug up floors looking for hidden spaces. They found tunnels and passages and secret doors, but all of them were empty. The humans who had used them were long gone. As the day ended, stood in the ruins of a building his soldiers had torn apart. Broken furniture and scattered belongings covered the floor. This had been someone's home. Now it was destruction for nothing. He realized something that made his skin grow cold. Before the registration program started, the Empire had rough estimates of how many humans lived on each world. Millions. Billions. They had not cared about exact numbers because humans were not important enough to count precisely. Now they wanted to track every human, but humans were disappearing faster than they could be registered. The Empire was not gaining control. It was losing information. Before, they had estimates. Now they had nothing. Picked up a small toy from the rubble. It was a simple doll, handmade from scraps of cloth. A child had left it behind during the evacuation. He wondered where that child was now. Somewhere the Empire could not find. Somewhere free. For the first time, questioned what he was doing. He had joined the Imperial military to bring order and stability. But here he was, tearing apart homes and chasing families. The humans had done nothing violent. They had simply refused to be tracked. Was that so wrong? He dropped the toy and walked away. He would not speak these doubts aloud. That would be treason. But the thought stayed with him, growing stronger with each failed search, each empty building, each vanished human. Across the Empire, similar scenes played out. Registration programs began with great efficiency and ended in confusion. Humans disappeared by the thousands. They moved through networks that had been built in secret over decades. They found shelter with allies the Empire did not know they had. They became invisible not through technology, but through community. The Empire's response to the ghost ships had backfired completely. By trying to control the humans more tightly, they had pushed them into the arms of the ghost network. Every family that fled registration became another ally. Every failed search became another victory for resistance. On the Whisper, received reports from across the Empire. Numbers that should have been impossible. Hundreds of thousands of humans evacuated. Millions more warned and prepared. The network was growing faster than ever before. The Empire made a mistake, Ho said. They thought fear would make people obey. Instead, it made them fight. Nodded. Fear is a strange weapon. It can control people for a while, but eventually it makes them brave. When you have nothing left to lose, you become willing to risk everything. She looked at the navigation display. The Imperial core was close now, just 2 more days of travel. Soon they will learn the rest of the lesson, she said quietly. Soon they will understand what humans can really do. No ID, no signal, no origin. The Empire can't track this object. Part 5. The Imperial core was the most protected place in the galaxy. Thousands of warships patrolled its borders. Millions of sensors watched every approach. Billions of systems tracked every signal, every ship, every message that came near. Nothing entered the core without the Empire knowing. Nothing threatened the heart of power. That was what everyone believed. The Whisper arrived at the outer boundary of the core at midnight Imperial time. Sat at her controls, calm and focused. Behind her, Ho, 1 and were at their stations. Everything was ready. Sensor web ahead, 1 reported. The most advanced detection system in the Empire, 30 layers deep. No ship has ever passed through undetected. Until now, said, take us in. The Whisper moved forward like a shadow sliding through darkness. It passed the first layer of sensors without causing a single alert. Then the second layer. Then the third. Watched the display as her ship moved through the most protected space in the galaxy, and nothing noticed. Admiral had followed them all the way from the outer systems. His flagship hung at the boundary, unable to pursue further without causing panic in the core. He watched his sensors, hoping to see the human vessel finally detected. Nothing happened. Where is it? He demanded. It should have triggered every alarm in the system. His officers had no answer. The ghost ship had passed into the core as easily as walking through an open door. Hai received the news in her throne room. The unknown human vessel was inside the core. It was approaching the Imperial capital. And still, no one could track it, stop it, or even accurately locate it. Order all defense platforms to maximum alert, she commanded. Every ship in the core is to search for this vessel. Find it before it reaches the capital. Thousands of ships spread out across the core, searching with sensors and eyes. Patrol craft flew grid patterns. Surveillance platforms activated emergency protocols. The entire military apparatus of the Empire focused on finding one small ship. They found nothing. The whisper passed through the searching fleet like a gentle breeze, watched the massive warships fly past, their sensors blind to her presence. It would have been frightening if it were not so strange. The most powerful military force in the galaxy, completely helpless. Approaching the capital planet, one announced. Orbital defense grid is active. How active? Asked. Every weapon is powered. Every shield is raised. They are ready to destroy anything that moves. Nodded. Good. They are expecting an attack. Are we not attacking? Ben asked. She had been allowed on the bridge for this final approach. She wanted to see what would happen. No, said. We are not here to destroy anything. We are here to deliver a message. The whisper slipped through the orbital defense grid. It moved past weapon platforms that could destroy stars and shield generators that could block anything. None of them reacted because none of them could see the small dark ship passing by. Finally, the whisper took position above the imperial capital. Below them, the gleaming towers of the government district rose toward the sky. Heist Palace was visible even from orbit, a structure of gold and crystal that proclaimed the power and glory of the empire. We are in position, Ho confirmed. Broadcasting systems ready. Took a deep breath. This was the moment she had worked toward for years, the culmination of decades of preparation by thousands of humans. She activated the communication system. Override their broadcast frequencies, all of them. Fingers moved across her controls. What she did should have been impossible. The Empire's communication system was the most secure in the galaxy, but humans had been studying that system for generations. They had found weaknesses, built tools, and prepared for this exact moment. Done, said. Every screen, every speaker, every communication device on the capital world is receiving our signal. Broadcasting. Now. Across the imperial capital, screens flickered. In homes and offices, in military bases and government buildings, the regular programming stopped. A new image appeared. A human woman with calm eyes and a steady voice. People of the Empire, said. My name is. I am speaking to you from a ship that is currently in orbit above your capital world. A ship that your military cannot detect, cannot track, and cannot stop. In her throne room, Hai watched the broadcast with growing fury. She shouted orders, but no one could interrupt the signal. The human had complete control. I am not here to threaten you, continued. I am not here to attack you. I am here to tell you a truth that your government does not want you to know. For 200 years, the Empire has believed that it controls the human species. It does not. She paused, letting the words settle. We are everywhere. We have always been everywhere. We clean your homes and build your cities. We work in your factories and serve in your households. You see us every day and you never really look at us. You thought we were harmless. You thought we were simple. You thought we had no power. Images appeared on the screens across the capital. Ghost ships, dozens of them, moving through imperial space, passing checkpoints, carrying humans to freedom, all without detection. We have been building a network for 30 years. A network of ships that cannot be seen, paths that cannot be traced, and people who cannot be stopped. We did this not to conquer you, not to destroy you, but to be free. That is all we have ever wanted. Freedom. Slammed her hand on her throne. Cut this signal now. Her technicians worked frantically. Nothing they did could stop the broadcast. Your government has responded to our existence with fear, said. They have tried to put trackers in our bodies. They have searched our homes and disrupted our lives, but they have not stopped us. They cannot stop us, because you cannot cage something that was never really yours to control. She leaned forward slightly, her voice becoming soft but clear. We ask nothing from you but freedom. The freedom to live our own lives, raise our own children, and choose our own futures. Continue the oppression, and we will continue to exist beyond your reach. We will save those who need saving. We will move those who need moving. We will be the freedom that your surveillance cannot see. The broadcast showed one final image: the Whisper floating peacefully above the capital, a small, dark ship against the glow of the planet below. This is not a threat. This is a statement of fact. We are humanity. We cannot be tracked. We cannot be stopped. We cannot be caged, and we will never give up. The screens went dark. Normal programming returned. But across the capital, millions of sat in stunned silence. They had just seen the impossible: a human ship in the heart of the Empire delivering a message that could not be blocked. Hai stood at her window, staring at the sky. Somewhere up there was a ship she could not find, and in the streets below, in every building and home, there were humans, servants and workers, the invisible people who kept the Empire running. She had thought they were controlled. She had thought they were powerless. She had been wrong. The Whisper departed as quietly as it had arrived. It passed through the defense grid, through the searching fleets, through the sensor web, and back into open space. No one stopped it. No one could. Set a course for the rendezvous point where the rest of the fleet was waiting. Behind her, Bin was crying softly, tears of hope. "What happens now?" the young woman asked. Thought about the question. The Empire would not change overnight. There would be more repression, more searches, more attempts at control. But something had shifted. The belief in absolute power had been broken. The myth of total surveillance had been destroyed. Now, said, we keep going, we rescue more people, we build more ships, we expand the network. The Empire knows we exist now, but knowing is not the same as stopping. They can watch the skis forever, but they will never see everything. And in the spaces they cannot see, we will be there. On a distant world, in a small human settlement, a child tugged at her parent's sleeve. "Mother, what was that broadcast? Who were those people?" The mother looked at her daughter, then at the human servant cleaning their home. The servant met her eyes for just a moment. There was something in that look, not anger or hate, something stranger. "Hope." "I do not know," the mother said finally. "I do not know." But she was beginning to understand. And across the Empire, many others were beginning to understand as well. The humans were not furniture. They were not background. They were a people. And they had proven that even the greatest empire in the galaxy could not control them. In the darkness between stars, more ghost ships flew. More humans disappeared from oppression and reappeared in freedom. More networks grew, unseen and untracked. The empire would continue, but it would never be the same, because somewhere in its vast territory, something existed that it could not find, could not stop, and could not destroy. Humanity was free, and no one would ever cage them again.